burdened, not because we want to be unclothed, but further clothed, that mortality may be swallowed up by life. Now he who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who also has given us the Spirit as a guarantee.
Okay.
That's the new being, no born again, which
Okay.
tells us we are going to enter into that.
Yeah.
We are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord. So what's going on is, while we are tenting, so to speak, camping out, that's again on our sojourn on the earth.
Yeah.
Not a reconstituted earth. There seems to be there's going to be a new heavens and a new earth once. God's not going to reign on a burnout planet for 1,000 future years, I don't believe. This time of this burnout planet is now. Okay? Burnout spiritually. The church is tired. We're worn out. It's hard. We are surrounded by enemies. Praise the Lord, we are also surrounded by each other and a cloud of witnesses, as we talked about in Hebrews. All right?
Very good.
So I think that's very important. Gog and Magog, we'll do in passing. Many people talk about this as being, Russia and Germany and things of that nature. I don't have that much of an issue, but reality is Gog and Magog seems to be more representative in this context of the whole earth. In fact, it explicitly says, he will go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog. He's going to take everyone together to gather them. Numbers are going to be like the sands of the sea. Okay? What he's doing, he's taken a place that really was perhaps the Russia and Germany or whatever these areas may have been. You get this the table of nations, which is kind of interesting, by the way. But again, we have first the natural, now comes the spirit.
Sure.
Now he's trying to tell you, we're talking about unregenerate humanity.
Yeah.
All right, that's what he's talking about here. All right? Any comments, Brian? How are we doing so far?
I think we're doing great.
All right, now, it says, then fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. So right when we think it's going to be bleak,
yeah, that's good.
things are going to be changed, and we will be changed in the moment, in a twinkling of an eye, at the sound of the last trumpet. And again, when we get to Revelation chapter when we tell you about the seven trumpets, it's at the seventh trumpet.
Yeah.
7 vials have to be consummated first, but it's during the time of the seventh trumpet, the last trumpet, that will happen. Now, what I want to say is, it says, and the fire came down, the devil who deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and they would be tormented day and night forever and ever. We haven't talked about all these characters yet, except the devil a little bit. And then I saw a great white throne, and him who sat on it, whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place on them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life.
Okay.
This is important to understand. Remember we talked about, I will write his name in the book of life.
Yeah.
He who overcomes by, again, what? What overcomes?
Our faith.
Faith. What gets us into the book of life?
Our faith.
It's the same thing. And it's not even our faith. It's a gift of God.
Yeah.
But we appropriate it and apply it to ourselves. We take that and let it grow. All right?
Yeah.
Now, the dead were judged according to their works by the things which are written in the books. And the fact of the matter is, all of our righteousness is as filthy rags. Without the work of God, believing in the one that he has sent, all of our works will be burnt up and will go to naught. The sea gave up the dead who were in it. Again, the sea is a metaphor for the world. Okay? Death and Hades delivered up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one according to its works. Then death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. Again, we said earlier, this is the second death, referred to earlier in Revelation chapter 2.
Yep.
See how this ties in together?
It's all tying
It's not that sneaky, you know. Anyone who was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Lest you doubt what I was saying earlier, if you're not in the books are irrelevant.
Yeah.
All right? My point is this is talking about the binding of Satan to happen at the cross, casting in the bottomless pit. I believe, and I'm going to tell you a little bit earlier when we start going into the seals and stuff, the actual casting into the bottomless pit happened at the time of Constantine.
Yeah.
All right? About 313 A.D. The persecution suddenly, virtually overnight, ceased. And Christianity, which had been persecuted and harangued and harassed, basically they became the state religion.
So Satan was bound at the cross.
Right.
So he wasn't allowed in heaven anymore.
Correct. He could not accuse you before God in the third heaven.
Because of
no.
Christ's blood. And I know
He had power over
Revelation
him.
12 does talk about this.
Right.
And then he went across, he was about the earth.
He's on the earth. He was in Pergamos
Persecuting,
at one time.
right? He was in Pergamos, and he's persecuting us left and right, Christians.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, what you're saying is,
Everything's
he lost. Yep.
Yeah.
He's
Right before he does that, as we get into, what's our next thing we're going to be, how much time do we have here? How are we doing on time?
Got
Doing
10
pretty
minutes,
good.
yeah.
We got 10 minutes on this, Dave. Let's go for something. Where do you want to go?
Okay.
I think we're ready to go to maybe 13. You want to go to 13?
Yeah, I'd say 13's fine.
Okay. Again, we start with the chapters we are confident in the most.
Right.
As I've told you earlier, I make no pretense, no secret of it. There are problems with every system of interpretation, depending on how much you want to make of it. But I think that I have a friend of mine, Earl. You're going to be put on this tape here. Earl Washington. He's a wonderful guy, but he calls it ghetto theology. And what he says is, if somebody has 25% of understanding, another guy has 45%, the other guy has 82. I'm going with the 82%.
Yeah.
Until a guy comes up with 91.
Yep.
You know, I think quite frankly we got about 90, maybe 95%. All right. Part of that reason is because I think 95% of the church age is over.
Yeah.
I think Christ is going to be returning very shortly. All right. Now we're going to go into something we've talked about the church. We talked about Christ first, then we talked about the church. Now we're going to talk about an area which has incredible amounts of controversy and interest, of course, the obstacles. So we start with Christ.
Yep.
We go with his bride, and now we're going to go with some of the things going on in the earthly, worldly kingdom. All right.
Yeah, very good.
Revelation chapter 13. By the way, 11, 12, and 13 are interludes during the time of they're talking about things that are going on in the time of the trumpets, if you will. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so it would be in the middle of the seventh seal, and they go all the way really from the time of the fifth trumpet all the way through the seventh trumpet. Yeah. Is 11, 12, and 13. Yeah. So I want to let you guys understand that in the context of the chapter. We'll go back to that when we hit 11, 12, we hit the seals and go into the trumpets itself.
Yeah, everything mixes in. It's like you see in the Bible, there are many dreams it talks about, and you interpret these dreams, and there's always all these signs. Revelation is like the mega dream of all dreams.
Mega dream of all time.
And vision of all visions.
All right.
And you have dreams within dreams within visions within visions. So,
yep.
Yeah.
So we have an interlude here. And I think, and we're going to start with 13. Why? Not because 11 and 12 are not really valid and good, but because there are things in there that you might have issues with. You might say, where does he get that from? But 13, we have a very strong basis. We can build off other portions of Scripture. And those who have seen my end time primer earlier, when I talked about Daniel chapter 2, Daniel chapter 7, will understand the allusions. Not illusions, allusions. I'm alluding to earlier things, and I will touch on them just briefly. Sure. Otherwise, we'll go through 3 days for one chapter. So, chapter 13 talks about John himself. He's in a vision, and he stands on the sand of the sea. All right. And I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now what we're going to do, we're going to read through 13, and we're going to read through chapter 17, all at one time. Okay. All right, before we expound on any of it. Okay, we have to do this because these 2 chapters lock in together quite well. All right. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshipped the dragon who gave authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Saying, who is able to make war with him? And he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. Remember that time period. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority was given over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity, and he who kills with a sword must be killed with a sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Now, Brian, go ahead and start with verse 11.
Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in its presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He performs great signs so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling them who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads. What we already talked about in chapter 20. And that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666.
Okay, that's chapter 13. Notice we've got two figures in here, a beast out of the sea and a beast out of the earth.
Very good.
And a lot of things happen there. Now we're going to go to Revelation 17, by the way, which is showing these things are happening concurrently or within the same, they could be happening at the same time period. I believe that's indeed exactly what it's talking about.
Yeah.
We get more clues as to this beast out of the sea, but one of the protagonists, the identity is sort of changed. Instead of a beast out of the earth, now we have a harlot. Okay? So let's continue on here with 17. Verse 1. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls, again, that's the seven last vials, came and talked with me, saying to me, Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit and into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, symbolizing royalty and harlotry, by the way, okay, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement. But the angel said to me, Why did you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and the 10 horns. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, and I'm glad he's going to tell us some of the mysteries. See, it's explaining a lot for us, so we don't have to do all the work. The beast that you saw was and is not and will ascend out of the bottomless pit and go to perdition. And those who dwell on the earth will marvel, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they see the beast that was and is not and yet is. Here is the mind which has wisdom, the 7 heads and 7 mountains on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings, 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7, and is going to perdition. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them. For he is the Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. Then he said to me, The waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. And the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind, and to give their kingdom to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman whom you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth.
Okay, well, we're getting down to the end here. We'll start with. We'll actually do the exposition and the explanation of what we've just read there. A lot of things have been given, a lot of explanations, but how does this work and fulfill itself in history? And that's what we're about ready to tell you.